Okay, so to start chapter 4, we're going to start talking about correlation. And so the first thing that we want to discuss with correlation is what's called an association, okay? And in order to start building this idea of an association, we need a way to look at our data. So the first thing that we're going to do to start looking at this is we're going to create what's called a scatter plot. And a scatter plot is, we've done things kind of similar to this before. We're going to have two things that we're trying to connect or see if there's an association between. And one of them is going to be set as our x-axis, and one of them is going to be set as our y-axis. So we're going to be viewing them as ordered pairs when we do this. So the example that we're first going to look at is a real estate agent wants to study the relationship between the size of a house and its selling price. Reasonable for us to think that the more square footage that there is, the more the asking price is going to be for that house. So we want to be able to visualize this with a scatter plot. So taking a look at a data set that I provided here, we have the square footage in size, in square feet, for several houses here. And then we have their selling price in thousands. So this would be 400,000, 426,000, and so on. We're going to stick with the 400, 426, etc. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to plot these points onto a grid space. So here we have our grid space. We have our square footage sizes going here across the bottom, scaled out. We've got from 24 to 32. And then up the side, we've got from 380 to 500 so that we can encompass all these 400 and close to 500 values. So we take a look. This first dot right here is the one for that 25, 21, and 400. And then the next one right here with the 25, 25, and 426. So what we're seeing here is we are seeing that when these house sizes increase and go this way, we are also seeing that those dots do have a higher value. So we kind of see this upward trending pattern, okay? So now we have phrasing or verbiage for that. So the verbiage for that is what's called a positive association. And specifically, we're going to be looking at a positive linear association because we're saying it follows a more than likely, most likely, kind of a straight line as opposed to different shapes, U shapes or other shapes. So for the most part, this is kind of in a general upward. And again, we're not looking for it to be specific every single point exactly on the line. We're looking for an overall basic shaping. So positive association is going to be when smaller prices or smaller sizes are associated with smaller prices in this example, and larger sizes are associated with larger prices. And so we do tend to see that upward movement. So picture-wise, we have kind of dots that are in the lower left moving to upper right when we go through this. So as our X's increase, our Y's also increase. So we would say that this has a positive linear because they're in a mostly straight line association. Now, there are other types of association. So here's another example of a positive. Again, it just has to be a basic trending shape, okay? And again, when we talk about linear, we're looking for kind of pretty much a straight movement as opposed to a U-shaped graph or a squiggle graph, something like that, where there has a different pattern to it. So we can also have negatively associated, okay? So negatively associated would be that it starts in the upper left and moves to the lower right. And again, it's just a general basic movement. We're not looking that everything has to be on the same exact line. And now we are going to be focusing on linear associated graphs here. So we're going to be looking at positive or negatively linearly associated graphs. There are other shapes. There are quadratic, which are U-shaped. There are lots of other shapes that can be done when we do this. Now, there also doesn't have to be any association. Okay, if it really just does look like chickenpox on a page, or I just blew a bunch of confetti out onto the table, then it's not going to have an association. So what we're going to be looking at in the next video is how can I tell whether or not there is an association here or not, because we need something to kind of gauge our stuff off of. And then also, how good is it?